Owning gear is a very touchy subject in the cinematography world. Some people swear by it, some people hate it, some people never want to own it. It comes with its own set of complexities. Having gear is complex, and not having gear can also be complex. It certainly depends on the market that you're in, the type of work that you do, and the only real way to understand whether or not it's a smart idea for you to own gear is to self-diagnose your situation. You'll know the exact level that you're at. You'll know the market that you're in, what people are willing to pay. A couple of things, though, a couple of tips to keep in mind when you are thinking about gear. I would say you either go the cheapest thing that you can possibly find or the industry standard. And the industry standard is almost always the most expensive thing. There are a couple of key items that I think every cinematographer should have. That is a monitor that you trust, preferably one with a recorder built into it. And I often say that you want a recorder built into it because you want as much of the footage that you shoot as possible. Number one, so you can check what you're doing. Make sure that everything that you did during the day, when it's a little bit less chaotic and you're in your hotel room at night or you go home at night, you can check the footage back and see, okay, well, this worked, this didn't work. If you're making those subtle changes in between, you're not going to see those subtle changes in the finished product on television. You need to be reviewing, especially early on. I remember early on in my career, I would go home immediately after the shoot, download all of the footage from the recorder and immediately start analyzing it. What could I have done better? What could I do for tomorrow's, if it's the second day of a project, what can I do then that will work? And sometimes, at the higher level, the DIT will provide stills and provide some of that footage for you. But, let's be honest, a lot of us are not working at that level. So you have to be your own DIT. You have to be your own person who's looking after the image because you're the caretaker for it. So any little improvements that you can make come from having that recorder and having it on your monitor. The other plus side of a monitor is you need something that you can trust, right? In the digital era where you're getting away from using a light meter, things change on set all of the time. You don't want to go to the rental house in Santiago and say, give me whatever onboard monitor you have or whatever 17-inch monitor that you have for this production, because they could have the brightness turned up, they could have the contrast all the way turned down, it could have some weird funky signal where it's seeing not Rec 709 or something like that. Just trusting what you're seeing in the monitor for a DP at any level is so important now. So I would say certainly get a monitor. First thing, if it has a recorder, even better, because some productions, especially as you move up, are much more hesitant to allow the raw footage to be shared. Have to have a pretty intimate relationship with the DITs that are around that will be able to share that information with you. I mean, it's not frowned upon, but it's certainly, there are some productions that it's just not kosher with. So monitor with a recorder. The other one is filters. Filters are now starting to go in camera, but still having a set of 7 Panavision 4x5.6 filters is key. They make their money back really, really simply. You got to get ones that you trust, and I would say buy the best there. At this stage, it's either ARRI or like a TrueND. So that's where I would look to make my second investment outside the monitors is filters. And then a light meter, of course. You're going to want to pull the trigger on a light meter fairly early on if you already haven't. It'd be hard to climb the ladder without having a light meter. Even though you may not use it on jobs, it's just understanding ratios. It's training your eye. It's such a useful training tool to have. I like one with a spot meter and a incident meter built in, the Sekonic 758. I think it is. I think they stopped making it. They changed it over to something else, but that's something along those lines. So filters, monitors, those things are really easy to get on the job. You don't even have to tell the production that stuff is coming on the job at certain levels. My level, those just come with me. I just put it on the invoice. That's normal. On every travel job, that's what I'm taking with me. And really, that's it for travel jobs. Even though I have all of the gear, I won't travel with it. I'll leave it at home, and that's only really for local jobs. But if you do invest in gear, that's where I would start. And the only reason I would go with the crappy stuff or lower level stuff is you have to understand that stuff is going to break. You should only buy it for a very specific purpose, which is to move up the ladder, and understand that it has a shelf life that is very minimal. If it's not the industry standard, as soon as you get up to a commercial level where you're properly crewed, those people are not going to want to work with substandard gear. Productions aren't going to want to trust substandard gear. If fingers crossed, in the worst possible scenario, if you were to have gear that was yours, that was not the industry standard, fail, it is a representation of you. You don't want to put that out there. I understand that these things are expensive, but just don't buy until you have the money, or don't put forth your gear until you know it's reliable, which is the industry standard. For better or worse, that's the way that the industry works. You can try and swim against the current, but I wouldn't recommend it.